Hey guys, day 70 something, and we are, well, we're kind of running about last minute here doing things, getting the wife a drink of water and having a cigarette, and just generally being busy. But we're here now, and we are also waiting on a new build. So, who's all in the chat tonight? And I've got a question for you guys actually. What do you guys do if you're sitting, making a game or whatever it is you're doing in Unreal Engine or Unity or whatever it is you use? Do you guys listen to music? Do you listen to... I quit. How you doing, bud? Right, so we're going to get ourselves sorted out here. WSG. Don't know what WSG means, but yeah, WSG, whatever that is. Right, now, earlier on, right, I remember I listened to World War II books, audiobooks. But the best of it is that I don't remember any of it. Right? There's, what's good? Oh, right, so that's the WSG. What's good? I don't know. Elves, I suppose, are good, usually. Audis, reportedly, are good. Other than that, I don't know what's good. This game's good. This game's good. So what I was going to do was I was going to show you. I'm waiting on a new build. Right, so I'm sure I'll get a message when I get a new build, and then we can actually update that. Right. Wouldn't that just be WG? And why is it not WGD? There's the question for you. The acronym doesn't make sense. Anyway, back to the point. I showed the widget working this morning, the one that was working on yesterday, but I actually worked on it off stream, right? And I got it doing exactly what I wanted to, right? So you'll see here, right, that we can craft our item, and there we go. Right, now, just to prove a point that this isn't a one-trick pony, right, we can pick this up first, right, and then pick that up, and then we can craft. And if we build it this time, this is going to get removed and it's going to be replaced by that. There we go. So I think you've missed this part quite actually, because I've not seen you for a day or so. And I think you missed me started doing the crafting. Oh, I think you maybe seen me doing the start of the crafting. Right, but that was me. I finished it yesterday, and that's exactly what I wanted to happen, right? So, but the thing is, I never showed, I meant to show it today, and this is the treat for you while we're at it. I never showed how I done it, right? Even though I meant to, right? So what it basically does is, when you click on the crafting item that you're going to craft, okay, what it does, and I can switch this back on actually, and this has got tooltip enabled, right? Switch that back on. Right, so the point being that when we click on the item, right, here, we create our progress widget, then we create our little widget that goes in the middle. So these are completely separate, right? Even though it looks like they're together, right? And then we add them to the viewport. Then we do our progress bar thing, okay? And then once our progress bar thing is done, we actually make the item, and then we say move complete. And what we do is we pass in the position in pixels on the viewport of our slot, right? And then we pass that through an interface to our actual crafting table. And it's our crafting table, because we can't do like a timeline in a widget, I hand it off over to the crafting table, right? And this is the timeline for it, right? So it basically waits half a second and then goes for a second, okay? And this is it here, that we get our padding, or sorry, this is the size of the image, and then we add the padding. Then for the Y, we get half the size, and then we take off a little bit of padding, and then we multiply it by the alpha, and then we set the render translation, right? And that moves it from the center of the screen to over the actual slot, and that works perfectly. Then when it's finished, we remove the crafted widget because it's now finished doing its dissolve. We fill the inventory grid with the proper inventory grid. Yes. This is the code that moves the widget, right, from the center of the crafting widget to the inventory slot. Okay? And it doesn't matter which inventory slot it is, it'll find it and get the position of it and then place or slide it over into that slot. So then what it does is it draws the actual inventory behind it, right? Which is going to have the correct number and all that stuff. And then we basically hide our crafting widget, okay? So you'll see here we get the crafting item, and well, actually we put the tooltips on, right? But basically at that point we're done. Okay, so that is the code, and the most important part is this bit here. I get the index of where the slot is that it's going to go, right? And then we get the child at that, then we get its geometry, and then we get the position in the viewport, and then we break that into X and Y, and that gives us the exact position in the viewport. Okay. And there we go. That's how it was done. Okay. But I was hoping that I was going to get this new version so that we can carry on, because earlier today we were doing some optimization stuff, and then I was going to carry on with that and basically check it against what we've got just now. Because we are implementing probably a new sky system. So what we'll do is we shall start standalone, and we'll do a snapshot of our... Now, I did say in the title of this stream that it was going to be enemy AI or wildlife, but that was before I knew I was maybe going to get a new build. Yeah, I think that's pretty good as well. I think it just finishes it off nicely. You know, it's just got that little bit of flair at the end, you know, that normally people wouldn't put in it. They would just, you know, put it in your inventory and that would be it. Right. You can see there that we've got Steam access ready. We haven't got a Steam key yet, or a Steam ID, but all we need to do is basically put it in, and we will actually be able to do achievements and stuff, but that takes a bit of work as well. Now, it's kind of not automatic, it's a bit of work, right? So what we were doing earlier was I was showing how to do some optimization and tools for it. Why did that not work? Stat FPS. Right, so you can now see that we've got an FPS value and a millisecond value. Okay, so next we want stat unit. Okay, and that now gives us everything that we need to track down any problems. Okay, or it gives us a start, it gives us the first clue to how we track down a problem. Now I'm just going to message and find out when I'm going to get this. But for you guys who weren't here earlier today, let me know. If it's all guys for earlier today and you all know about this, then let me know. Don't let me just repeat myself. Okay, I know Quite Abandoned wasn't here, but no, it's the way you're not trying to find a bug, right? Not necessarily. You're trying to find out where your problems might be, right? Now, anybody in the chat, have you been through this? Were you on the stream earlier and saw this? As I say, I don't want to repeat myself, but I've absolutely, well, I don't want to repeat myself just for the sake of repeating myself. What I mean is, I'll go through this quite happily again if you guys are interested, right? Now, it would be slightly different if I had a new build, because I would be testing it against what we're looking at now. And I am just about to explain it. Okay. Okay, well, I guess I'm explaining it again then. Which, as I said, I don't mind doing. Right. You can see that we've got between 70 and 80 FPS. Okay. Now, the reason that comes about is the number down from it, which is the same as the frame, is the number of milliseconds it is taking to draw or to put a frame on the screen. Okay? So you might think to yourself, well, how does that work? Well, it works like this. If I hit the Windows key and I bring up my calculator, right? If I say the number of milliseconds in a second is 1000, okay, and then I take this number here, right? So it's between 14 and 15. Okay, so the obvious example here, which everybody gives, is 15. So if I divide this by 15, that gives me 66 frames a second. Okay? So under normal circumstances, you want this number, the frame, to be under 16. Okay? 15 if you want it quite confidently above 60 frames a second, okay? But that's the normal sort of number you use for that, right? So we can do it again, right? We can say 1000. Okay, that's not 1000. Right? And divide it by 16. You know, we get 16.5. Right? 62.5. So if we were setting at an average of 16 all the time, this would say 62.5. Okay? Now, what's it got to do with these other numbers? Right, well, here's the thing. If we look at the game under the, you see how it says frame, game, draw, GPU. Okay? Well, the game is the amount of time it is taking to do the game logic. Okay? So at the moment, our game logic is running at, let's say, about 7 on average. Okay? now I'll explain this in a minute as well. Our draw is running at 12. Okay. And basically, if our draw is slower, then that means that we can't feed the GPU enough data fast enough. Okay? And then, but if we're doing that, if it's under the frame, right, but our frames are matching the GPU, then it is our GPU that can't handle the data fast enough. So we haven't basically got a fast enough GPU. Okay? But all of these have got to sync up, right? So just because we're running our game at 7 milliseconds doesn't mean to say that our game would run at our game code is running fast enough that it could handle 142 frames a second. Okay? So basically, if our draw and our CPU were at 7 milliseconds as well, then our frame rate would be 142 frames a second. Okay? So we can derive from those numbers if we have a bottleneck. Okay? Now, we know at this point that the thing that is slow is actually, it looks like it's the GPU, which is surprising because I'm running a 980 Ti water cooled. I mean, it depends on, obviously it depends on your settings and it depends on your resolution and all that stuff, right? But if it was like our draw, okay, so yeah, right, okay. So if it's our GPU, right, what we can do is we can say profile GPU. Right, now that takes a snapshot in time. Okay. And then, I can't make this bigger for you guys, by the way, I'm sorry. The widget refractor doesn't actually affect sub windows, or not like these ones anyway. So anyway, point being, we've got our durations, okay? And you can see that our world tick is taking 8.56 milliseconds and our scene is taking 8.69. Okay, we can order these so that we can work on the bottom ones, right? So if I was to look for, not necessarily a bug, right? Your code might be absolutely fine, but you might need to do a tweak, right? So what you would do is open your scene. Remember, it's using up 8.69, okay? And we can see here that this one and this one are the ones that are using the most. Possibly this one as well, and possibly this one. So we've got volumetric fog, pre-pass, that's debuffer stuff. So that gives us a clue. So if we're doing anything related to the debuffer, if we're doing anything related to volumetric fog, it could be having an effect on this. Post-processing, so if we're doing any post-processing, we know that it might have an effect on this. And on the base pass, we'll open that up and we've got editor primitives. Okay. And it looks like this base pass parallel is, yeah, that's the only one, because the rest are just 0.04, which is negligible. The other ones are nothing. Right, so what you could do then, right, now these numbers aren't bad, right, these are, I'm just giving you these as examples. We had better examples earlier on, I can assure you, when it was running like a piece of dog shit, right, but we actually managed to make it faster, right. So what you would do here is, in this case, I would bring up a browser and find out what this relates to, and if there's anything at all I can do with that. That might be related to number of draw calls, right, which would then point you in the direction of merging actors and stuff, okay? So you possibly fix that by merging some actors, or, okay, you won't fix it, right, because it's a base pass, right, so it's going to have some computing time, right, but if you can take 30% off that, that'd be great. That's, you know, every frame that you can save means either A, your game is more stable at a higher frame rate, or B, you can add something somewhere else, but it's always a trade-off, okay? So we've got post-processing here, and we've got scene downsample, that's not a biggie, and it's the shader, actually it's not that either, it's post-processed material, it's the ocean, right, that's the two big ones here. Now there's a lot of stuff going on here. We've got bloom, you know, you could basically, if you took bloom off your camera and everything, that would get rid of 0.05. Now that's not an awful lot, and it might be not a very good trade, but this is how you go through it, right? It's detective work, that you look at the things that you can do stuff with, okay? We've got this post-process volume here, so we can maybe have a look in here and see what that is, but maybe not. Well, yeah, we know it's the ocean, right? So basically, if you remember these numbers, right, 0.21, 0.22, right, let's see if we can have a look at our ocean, right, and let's see if we can actually get that down a bit. How's about that for an idea? Right, so, oops. So let's select our ocean. Now we might change, so I'm just about to do a download of the new version, by the way, so we can muck about with this a bit and not worry too much about it. Right, mesh quality, well, whatever. Buoyancy, displacement. Remember here, guys, we are looking for post-processing stuff. Don't know if that's going to do it. Mask distance, volume, calculate volume, don't know what that is. Foam generator, God rays, not disabled, so we don't need to worry about that. Underwater, enable fog. Right, I wouldn't be surprised if this was it. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch that off, right? Right, because fog is normally a post-processing thing. Right. So how do you think this is going to go? Might not do anything to be to be perfectly fair. But these are the things you've got to try, right? Just to see if we can just... If you can just shave a millisecond, point one of a millisecond off 20 different places, that's quite a few frames, okay? But you're always... it's always a balancing act between graphical fidelity and what we're doing here, right? So, tilde, stat, FPS, that gives us our numbers up there. Then, stat, unit, that gives us more numbers. And then we need to let it settle down. Right, I'm just going to get rid of that for now. As I said, we need to let this settle down a bit. That looks as if it's beginning to settle down now. Alright, you can see we're getting down to 13s now. But the proof of the pudding is in profile GPU. Okay, and we're going to get our scene again. We're going to get our duration. Right, there's our water. Look at that. We've not got that post-processing. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, we have. Hang on a second. I was getting all excited with myself there. I think... Yeah, look. Wait a minute. Notice, guys, if you haven't already, we haven't got that anymore. We haven't got that. There is no process. Remember how it said ocean? Yeah? Remember how it said ocean? Doesn't exist anymore. It's not taking up any time. Or was it the volumetric fog? Well, can't be that either because it's not in here. So there you go. So basically we've given up fog under the water for basically I think it was 2 milliseconds, wasn't it? It was 2.4 milliseconds, I believe, because there was 2 of them. Am I right? And there, my friends, is how you optimize. Right? By looking at this, I found a setting in an asset from the marketplace that I could turn off the underwater fog and save 2.4 milliseconds. Okay? How's about that, guys? Come on. No, telling you. The reason I knew to look in the ocean asset was the fact that the GPU profiler told me that there was two things getting used that used the material in post-processing, and I think it was for volumetric fog, right? And then from there I came down into here and went, wait a minute, we've enabled the fog, right? If we switch that off, right, and that's what we did, and then the next time we checked the profiler, those 2.4 milliseconds weren't there anymore. So fundamentally, we saved about, what was it? About 12%? We gave ourselves a 12% speed increase. I mean, that's not going to make much difference in the grand scheme of things. And if it was only one of them, might have only been one. So it might have only been 1 millisecond, right? So 1 millisecond, it was going to be like about 8% or something like that. So if you're only getting 50 frames a second, that's only going to give you like 3 or something like that, right? But it's still the 3 that you might need to push it over 60, okay? And that's the point. Now, you've got to remember, it's a trade-off. Yeah, it's a little, but it's a lot of the little, right? It was, honestly, I think it was 2.4 milliseconds out of 14 milliseconds. Right, now remember what I told you. If we could get our runtime, if we can get our draw and GPU time down to the same as the game time, then this game would run at 142 frames a second. Okay? That's what would happen. But in the meantime, what we're going to do is we are going to update these. Okay. We didn't actually make changes to these. We sort of changed them, then changed them back. But our source safe thing thinks we've actually changed them, but you can see that we're actually loading lots of new items and stuff, right? And that's because the two branches have been merged together again. Okay, so once this is downloaded, which it's not far off, 98% or something like that, doesn't take long. Once that's done, we can load it up again and we shall be good to go. And that's it done. You'll notice nothing's actually changed here. Right. So we go to a library and we load it up again. And the interesting thing is, well, one of the interesting things is that we can actually save that 2.4 or 1.2. We can check it, by the way, right? Because this will have the old setting for the ocean, right? So we will be able to just load it up. So while this is loading, it's already loaded. So we can go in here. I have no idea what a mascot game is. I'm sure when you tell me I'll know what it is, and then I'll go, yeah, okay, so that's what they call them. You would have to give me... You see, the problem is, Quit, you've got a completely different... what's the word I'm looking for? You guys like some completely different things from like Western and stuff. Well, you'd have to give me an idea, but probably it's a very, very niche market in the West, right? But it's probably, you know, quite popular in the East, right? Like Tamagotchi, right? I suppose that was kind of the exception, but, you know, that was, you know, the exception rather than the rule. Let's just say that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go and grab a cigarette. So if you guys haven't already, go and hit that like and subscribe button and hit the bell thing. Apparently YouTubers are supposed to say that as well, apparently, right? Check out the description for links to the Discord server for the game, my personal one, Patreon, and my previous game on Steam. And I'll be back in about 4 minutes and we'll have a look at our new build with our new sky that looks pretty much the same as the old sky. New sky, same as the old sky. Name the song that I was making a joke reference to. Right, back in a minute, guys. Alrighty, we're back. Did that not play? What's going on with that? Can you guys hear the background music okay? Or is it going a bit weird? Because I don't see the mixer, the levels moving at all. Alright, I get what you're talking about. They don't... Can you hear it now? No. Oh, that's weird. Well, I'm just going to have to keep my eye on that, guys, because that seems to have just basically died. I don't know what's went on there. Oh well. Never mind. Okay, let's forget about that for now. Thank you guys who have subscribed, by the way. I'm now on 850. Woo! Right, we just checked this. So the point is here that we're going to do a profile on this straight away. And we're going to see if we have any issues. And then we're going to see if we can do something about it. Now, my colleague has told me that this is all good. And he got a lot of frames out the box. Just changing this. So, we're going to have to wait and see if we do or not. This is the first time it's compiled, so... Right. Let's have a look, shall we, guys? Stat FPS. Oof. That's not good. That's not good at all. Hi, Stuart Lyrol. I don't know how to pronounce that. Stuart Lyrol. I answered you. Yeah, glad to have you here, mate. Right, we've got a problem. Houston, we have a problem. Start unit. This is slower and worse on game than ultra dynamic. So that's not good. I tell you what though, we'll give it a second, right? Oh, we're even getting yellows. Right, remember guys, we had this up at 70s and 80s. Ah, yeah, because I've not pressed the button. I'm making a bit of a hash of it tonight. Am I not? No worries. As I said, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. I don't want to butcher it, basically. Right. We got up. Right, we're up at 13. So, it's pretty comparable. Pretty comparable, I'd say. We're at 13 milliseconds. 13, 14 milliseconds. Right, but now what we can do is we can bring up our profiler, right? Profiler, GPU, and there's no space. And it's not profiler, it's profile. Okay, world tick's good. Oh, that was down a lot there. So that was down to, let's see what we've got. We've got 4.5, 13.2, 13.6, approximately. And what have we got in here? Well, we've got 3 here, possibly 4, and we've got the old post-processing again, right? And look, our under ocean is back. Remember I told you about that, guys? Remember I told you that I got rid of that, right? Now, it's only going to save us 0.4, okay? But 0.4 of 14 isn't bad, right? The one we really want to do, if we can, yeah, it looks like either way these two here are unavoidable, because this, I remember this being very, very similar on the editor primitives thing, and I think the only way we're going to get rid of that is basically, or we're not going to get rid of it completely, the only way we're going to bring it down is with actor merging, which is one of the last things we're going to do. Okay, we've got motion blur on this, right, which we didn't have before. And it's pretty much nothing anyway, so it's a nothing burger. It's just part of this. Right? So in theory again, right, we can get this down 0.4 straight away. Right? So we might be able to get this down into the 12s without doing very much. Right? All we need to do is go over to our ocean, right? Go into here once again, come down to our underwater and switch off fog. Now that makes a lot of sense for us anyway, because you're not going to be able to go in the water because it's too cold, right? So the fog for us in the water is 0.4 milliseconds wasted. Now in theory now, if we run this, it's going to be hard to tell, right? But we should see it getting to 80 frames a second. Now, what I do need to do is test this in the main map, right? Because I know in the main map we were getting absolutely tanked by ultra dynamic sky. So we're just going to basically say start FPS. Yeah, we're hitting, well, I think we're hitting 80s, and it's still to settle down yet. So I'm going to go for the fact that this is actually going to be slightly faster. Yep, we're definitely hitting 12s on the draw. Yeah, I mean, the difference between 60 and 70 is not going to be very much, right? But the difference between 50 and 60 is, right? If you've got your monitor or whatever set at a certain refresh rate, okay? And that's the point, right? The point is to squeeze every frame you can out of it, if you can. Now you can see there, but now that we are absolutely sticking to 70 and we're hitting 80s, okay? Now again, that doesn't really mean anything, but it gives you the ability to either add stuff in or have it absolutely rock solid at 60, right? Now those 0.4 milliseconds might not sound like much, but that might be the difference between it jumping just above 60 and just below 60, right? Or let's say between 70 and 59, right? That now we've got it always stuck over 60. That's the point, right? But now we've obviously got that rock solid now over 70, hitting 80s, that we can be quite confident now that that is going to, you know, this game is going to run at 60 frames a second. Right, and it's going to very, very rarely, if ever, drop into the 60s. Right, you can see that we're staying pretty rock solid here. The other interesting thing here, by the way, right, I want to see one more thing. This could be quite interesting, right? Now, the fact that he's got particles coming off him all the time, that's going to have an effect as well. Now, we might never have that, right? So again, those extra couple of frames saved. Now, I'm not talking about the monster here, right? I'm talking about the particles, okay? The point here is not to have stuff on the screen that you don't need to have on the screen. Now, I know that that's probably occluded, but it's going to have an effect on our world clock, because those particles will be ticking, okay? So I don't know exactly how many I'm expecting here, but there's a lot. I wouldn't be surprised with actually a frame or two. Right? Start unit. Oh, we're rock solid again. Down to 12s. So we're still rock solid. Right? Hitting 80s. Our game clock is 7 milliseconds, between 7 and 8 milliseconds. So even if we want to run at 60, we've got basically 50% of our milliseconds left. Okay? Now for the test. Right? We're going to load up the actual map. And this is where it can all go pear-shaped. Rather quick. But this is definitely going to give us a better idea of what we're up against. This is going to take a second or two probably. Okay. And that's the C. And what we want to do is we want to select all of these and load them. Okay. So this is the start area. Now, I'm not 100% sure if we have no lights or if that is due to the new lighting system. I'm not 100% sure. Now, what I think I'm going to have to do here is we override gravity and we change it to 1. Well, my graphics card's nothing to shout home about anymore, but 7 years ago my machine was pretty darn fast. In fact, I used to be on top 10 lists of fastest machine. Water cooled. Yeah, it might be trying to process, but normally you'll get a message of some description saying it's doing that, and I'm not getting any messages anywhere. So we'll soon find out. If it stays like this for a while. Then we'll see how fast it loads up. The problem now is I had a problem with it falling through the screen again after Kent changed all the mappings, and our character was basically falling. Oh, we're going to get shaders again. Only 12 though. Shaders. Oh, the joys. Right, where's my mouse? Has it stolen my mouse? Apparently. Let's bring that back up there so you guys can see it. But it's stolen my mouse. Oh, shaders are gradually going up, not going down. That's not a good sign. 267 ain't too bad though. And plus the fact that you guys very rarely get to see the main map. God, I very rarely get to see the main map. Oh, there we go. We've got something. Right, this will be quite funny actually, because if I now do... Can I do this? Oh, it's not letting me do it. Well, the shaders are doing it. It's not letting me do the console thing. Oh, there we go. Oh, we've got Starry Night, that's for sure. We've got the sea. We ain't got rocks, so we're kind of sitting in the middle of the air. So we can do for a laugh, right? We should get some funny numbers here. Well, we're at 24. That's not bad considering the fact that we're not actually doing anything. What's that? Unit. This is going to jump up and down all over the place, by the way. Alright, like that. And there should be, like, see the rocks? Right, we've obviously hit a little bit of a problem there. Right, we should be sitting on rocks, and there should be a couple of boats over there in a minute. Okay, which will be quite interesting to see. Right, and I really, at this point, as I said, I'm going to have to rewrite this bit. At the start, we're just going to have like a hard probably going to have a hard loading screen. Oh, we're getting some nice frame rates there. I've got to say, it does look... What? Oh, it's just wanting money off me. Those clouds are pretty darn low. Yeah, I'm afraid so. I forgot this was going to be... So these clouds are... I don't know, once everything's loaded in, these clouds actually make it look okay. Right, but you can obviously probably change the size of them, you know. What we're going to be really interested in is the game. The game time. And we're going to be interested obviously in the FPS as well, but we're really going to be interested in both this time, because this actually matters. Right, our our game time is down to... So, we need it... The initial plan for this was to try and have it at a rock steady 30 frames a second, right? Yeah, she's been sitting there quite a lot recently. So if we do this divided by 3, that's the same number. So basically, if we want it locked at 30 frames a second, right, because it's not like a fast combat game or anything like that, Twitch game, so we could get away with 33, right? Anything over that's just gravy, right? And it looks like we're easily going to have that. Easily. It doesn't actually matter here what the scene actually looks like anyway, because all we're doing is getting everything in the scene that's going to be in the scene, right? So it doesn't matter if, you know, clouds are passing below or anything. Actually, it doesn't matter two hoots at the moment. The only thing we're interested in is performance. Right, so it's obviously still loading up these shaders and stuff, and sorry about that, guys, but nothing I can do about it right now while it's compiling. It's probably just as much frustration for you as it is for me. Right. Now, obviously, we can save our point 2 or whatever it was on this ocean as well. Okay. So we've got an immediate saving. But we're just going to have to wait. So is anybody else working on anything? Or are you all just learning and don't really have a project on the go yet? Yeah, that's a funny thing actually. It's like when I watched Cyberpunk videos, all the videos of things going wrong in that, you can actually see what they were trying to do with some of the things, but they just obviously went wrong. Right? I remember there one being a guy going in a lift. If any of you guys remember that, there was a glitch where a guy went in a lift and basically he gets chopped in half with a lift, right? And it was kind of obvious what they were doing. What they were doing was basically getting him out the bottom of the lift to hide him for the player, but they'd obviously got it wrong, and it just made a mess of it, right? But obviously, because you've programmed and you would see how they were trying to do it, then it becomes obvious that what has actually happened there. Only 41 to go, guys. We're getting there. All in good time. All in good time. Hopefully this just drops like a brick when we hit the compiling. I'm going to be absolutely gutted if it doesn't suddenly shoot up when the compiling finishes. Yeah, that's an obvious one as well. You know, that's one of the first things that I actually addressed with my monster spawn and despawn. That if the player could see them, if there's a line of sight between the player and that monster, they do not despawn and they do not spawn, right? So that the player doesn't see a monster popping in out of nowhere or popping out of nowhere, right? It just makes... It was the first thing I thought of, and it wasn't anything to do with Cyberpunk. It's just to do with the fact that it makes sense. But these guys were probably under a heck of a lot of pressure, you know. And these things get missed. And I know how it feels to be under that amount of pressure to bring out a product on a particular day or date. It is very nerve-wracking, I can assure you. Which I actually have a funny story about, but I'm not going to tell you it. We'll save it for a Saturday night or something. My speakers have suddenly turned on. I was like, is that raining outside? And I realised it's my speakers have suddenly turned on. That would explain the no background music. I'll bet you guys have got background music now. Yeah, you have. Right. Now, there is definitely something weird going on. Because she shouldn't be sitting in the middle of the air. Right? That is not right. I can assure you of that. And that is shocking. I'm going to reload this. I'm going to say that Unreal had a moment, you know. Unreal's had a bit of a moment to itself. If you've ever used Unreal, you'll know that it does have moments to itself. You'll notice the next time I do this, it'll probably work absolutely fine. And it'll be like nothing never happened. Right, anyway. Are you gonna open? Or are you gonna... Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it did some weird stuff there with the old asset finder. I'm not buying it. I can see... Yep, you see that? There's weird stuff going on here. there shouldn't be anything there. Maybe this wasn't such a great idea to try and actually stream this. Yeah, you just didn't see it, just ignore it, it never happened. Never happened. Right, when I do that, that should load in. Right, and we should be able to see that. Right? I'm adamant we should be able to see that. But if we can't, we're going to have to go into our test map again. And until we can prove this, I'm just about ready to go back to ultra dynamic sky. Okay, so press play. It's going to do it. You know it's going to do it. It's going to do those compellers again, isn't it? Then I'm going to look like an idiot. Not that I don't normally look like an idiot, but, you know, reinforce the point. Thank you, Unreal Engine. Oh. 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 Right, you're going to do something then. You're not going to do anything, are you? Maybe I need to actually rebuild the line. Wait a minute. I mean, okay, I mean that's what you were supposed to do the first time, but you weren't supposed to just suddenly do trees right in front of me. She's floating. Now that's zen. Come on, now that's zen. She's zen now. Right, I know why that is, by the way. We're floating in the sky. Anybody seen the snowman? Right, if you're as old as me, you'll remember what the snowman was, right? There's our ships. Right, actually, you know, it doesn't matter that I'm standing, floating in the air, right? What matters is if this thing's actually running or not. Start FPS. Did I type that wrong? Probably. I didn't look. Oh, not good. Not good. Start unit. I'm not liking that game. I mean, this isn't fair, right? I can't do that. I can't, right? Because it's not a fair comparison, right? I'll tell you why. Because basically it's having to show everything. Whereas if you're sitting on the ground, it doesn't need to show everything. It just needs to show basically what's around you, okay? So that's why that wasn't fair, right? That wasn't fair. Wasn't a fair fight, right? So global gravity 0. Carry on. I'm afraid to say your name in case I say it completely wrong. Is it start? Right, okay, here's the question, right? Yeah, I do the same. I stream twice a day. This is the 8 o'clock stream, and there's one at 2 o'clock. Okay? So it's 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. Central. So yeah, what was I saying? What was going on? Oh yeah, it wasn't a fair fight, right? Because it would obviously have to show the whole scene, and then therefore that's going to cripple the frame rate, as opposed to being right on the ground, right, where you can control it a bit better. So, not a fair fight. Trying it again. But I'm still concerned about that game speed thing. And I'm also a bit worried about what Global Gravity 2 will do, to be fair. I'm hoping it does nothing. That's what you'd think it would do, but nothing in Unreal Engine ever works like that. Alright, come on, where is she? I've got a sneaking suspicion. Ah, yep, we're okay. Right, so start FPS. Right, it's obviously going to be crap to start with. And then start unit. And because of it lagging, because we're loading stuff in, it stops typing, and then I hit return, and it's not great. Okay, so draw, not great. Hi, Disney's. Disney's. I don't like any of the options, right? I liked it with a long time ago with Microsoft Source Safe, right? And the way that worked, right, I'm not liking that game time at all. That is shocking, right? That's horrific. Now, it should get better in a minute. But, yeah, to answer your question, this now, right? Yeah, I like Source Safe, right? I never used it with games or anything, right? But when I was using it professionally, because what it meant was that what happened was all the files were in a central repository, right? And if you pulled a file out to work on it, right, you could basically lock it, right? And if somebody else tried to work on it, it wouldn't let them, right? Or at least it would come up and tell them and say, this is already booked out by the SNIS. You can't work on this. Any changes made will be, you know, thrown away or whatever. Okay? Now, having said that, we use GitHub and GitHub Desktop, and it's okay, but it takes you a little bit to synchronize. You know, I'm doing this, you're doing that. Don't obviously do anything with that. The problem's going to be if you're both working on the same things, right? And the reason we get away with it is I do most of the programming, whereas Kent does most of the level design. So we don't cross paths anywhere near as much, right? And if we're going to have to do something on that's stepping on somebody else's toes, then it's easier for us just to say, right, do not work on that tomorrow, I'm working on that tomorrow, blah blah blah, right? That's going to be harder for you guys if you're working on blueprints, because, well, basically, you know, these things can be connected to each other from anywhere, right? Changing interfaces, blah blah blah. You've got an interface that works on that, your friend on the other one changes that interface, and then suddenly everything doesn't work, and yeah. So that's kind of why I liked SourceSafe. But then again, SourceSafe probably wouldn't work under these circumstances. No, it would. It would. What you would do is, if you were working on a file, right, then you would basically book out all that file plus all its dependencies, right, so that nobody could change a value in a dependency that you were working on, right? But that might mean that somebody can't work on something else because that also has one of those dependencies, right? I hope that answers your question. If I was you and you've got the opportunity, just try a couple of different ways of doing it and find out what's the best way is. As I said, preferably I wouldn't do it like the way we're doing it, but now that we've sort of got our groove together, then it's not so bad, right? But this is actually worse than ultra dynamic sky. This is literally worse. And at least I could actually fix ultra dynamic sky. But then again, you see, this isn't actually a fair fight either, right? Because ultra dynamic sky's problems might be because of all the things in the level rather than ultra dynamic sky, or in this case I think it's infinity weather, right? So basically I would say it's worse. Right? Now, here's the weird thing, right? This is what I found out today. It was really weird, right? If I do profile GPU, watch the GPU number. Right? Look. The draw's down to 1 point. Look. But as soon as I do this, go straight back up again. It's wacky, isn't it? I don't know why it does that. But yeah, that's not good. Not good at all. Right, so the whole point of this actually was to do the CPU profiler and find out what the problems were. Right, so we're actually on the case now. Right, and to find out what is giving us these problems. And it's actually, well, there's problems in the draw, and there's problems in the GPU, and there's problems in the game. And this is pointing to basically everything. The world tick is horrendous. Right. Now, this here, I know what it is. Right, there's a texture target somewhere. Now, I've got no idea what's using the texture render target, but I know for a fact that this is a really bad idea to do it in blueprints. In fact, it's actually a bad idea to do it in C++. What you've got to do is you've got to do this under Slate. Right? Now, I don't know how to do it, but I know that that's the answer there. So, I know for a fact that that is going to screw us up. Right? No doubt about it. Now, what I've got to do here, and I want to see, is render target, and apparently we don't have one, right? But don't be fooled, because there might be a render target in one of these other objects. Well, that's one of the big ones I just showed you, right? Render target was 22 milliseconds on its own, one thing, one. If you don't know what a render target is, a render target is like a security camera that beams the picture to somewhere else. So what it does is it takes a picture, turns it into a texture, then you basically put that texture into a dynamic material and then put that on a widget, right? So if it's like for a minimap, or yeah, like a minimap's the best example, right? Right, so you're taking a picture of the actual map from a camera, right? You're turning it into a texture in real time. Then you're manipulating it as a texture for a material, and then you're basically plonking it on a widget or something, right? It's not 100%, it's not really that complicated, right? But what I do know is it's very expensive. Unless, you see, it's 25. It's the whole world tick. It's 25.77 of the 25.82. So this world tick is practically nothing. So what I think is this thing here is absolutely destroying the game time as well, right? This is probably destroying the game one, right? It's probably that one thing that's absolutely destroying everything. Right? Now, I don't know where that is. And I'm probably going to have to ask now, here's the funny thing though. I do know that there is one in the game, but it's only used in menus, right? Now, I'm just wondering And I'm pretty sure that I don't do it like that, right? I'm pretty sure I just spawn it in when I need it, right? But do we have is there some little sneaky little camera in here, right, that's doing this? Right, or has Kent put some kind of sneaky little special effect in that's using that? One. Well, I'll go say one and then one really badly. I'll go for one in a bit. But I'm guessing you're probably asking Stuart. Right, the question is, where is this render target coming from? Is it coming from... See, this is my worry here, right? See, I don't think it was Kent. Okay? I don't think it was Kent. But that doesn't mean, right, that it's not in an asset that we are overlooking. Right? So, for example, I mean, I don't think it'll be in here. Right, but we're looking for a static mesh, right? That's okay. Static mesh, debug, volume, distance field, post process, underwater processing, infinite compound. Right, what's that? What's that thing? Right, see, this is the parts that scares me because I don't know what this is. Yeah, one in a bit. One in a bad bit. I wasn't interested in languages. It's just something I never took any kind of interest in at all. That's the problem with like your, you know, when your mother tongue is English, you don't really need to learn another language. It normally only becomes useful if you go on holiday, right? And there's not an awful lot of people that learn a language just to go on holiday there, right? So it kind of, so you've not really got any incentive to learn another language when you're in the UK. I'm not saying there's absolutely zero, right? Obviously, you know, there are people that see it as a way to get better better education, more opportunities, but you know, that's few and far between. Your normal sort of ordinary folk don't really get that. Now, see, the thing is here, right, that whatever it is here, it's not in our other map, okay, because we never saw this huge problem, right? Focus point, that's just going to be a scene component. Ah, so I'm guessing you're Brazilian, Stuart. I'm going out in a limb with that one. Nah. Nah. Right, here's the funny thing. Right, I'm going to make a little prediction here, right? I've guessed where Schneider came from earlier, right? Not that he actually confirmed he was German, but I think he is. Like, you can guess by the name, right? But I think Stuart is Brazilian, but of German ancestry, right? Because the Stuart will be like a German Stuart version. It'll be like a Stuart. And the Lyrol, it'll be either like, there's going to be, right, he's Brazilian with some kind of a German connection, German-Austrian connection, right? That's my prediction on that one. Right, guys, I think I found the problem. Okay, good night, Quit. Have a good day at school tomorrow. Right, I think I have the issue. We have this lookup, right? And it's creating, it's being, see this BP base simple inspection object? Right? And I'll bet you it's TP sat again. Right? Now, we haven't got it here. Right? But I'm going to go to this lookout again. Good night, listeners. Take it easy, man. Right, I'm going to look for components here, and I am expecting to find a, there it's there, interaction HUD. a 2D texture that will always be facing the camera. That's the render target, right? And that's why our frame rate is getting destroyed. Okay? It's this look at items. Okay? I'm pretty sure this is the problem. Right, what is it? Is it not going to tell us what it is? It says it's a billboard component, right, but it's not really, is it? It isn't really. There, it's there. There's the camera. And it's a child of that. So if you put a lookup item in there, it's just basically going to cripple your whole system. Alright, okay, this is sorry. Right, so here's the problem. Right, this BP base interactive item here, I'm pretty sure somewhere I am going to find a render target. Right. Right, so if we do that one, right, and we open that, now this one says it doesn't have a render target, but we've got another one that we can look at, which is this one. Now what's this one saying? It says scene component. Interaction HUD. Right, has this got some sort of a thing on it? You see, the point is that it's got this camera thing. I just can't. Has it got it? Okay, okay. So what we need to do is we need to find out what this is. Right. And how can I not move? Alright, okay. Whatever. Sorry. Right. It didn't like me doing that. Anyway guys, I'm going to call that for the night. It's been nice having you, Stuart. I hope to see you again tomorrow, 2 PM Central. That'll be 2 PM round about your time. Or maybe 3, depending. Just nice to see you again. Quite abandoned, think he's away to bed, but if he's not, good night. Any new guys, and for those who subscribe, thank you very much. It's much appreciated. Check out the description for links to the game's Discord and also my personal Discord where I help people out in Unreal Engine sometimes. Well, most of the time actually. Well, normally when people ask. And Patreon and my previous game on Steam. There's a link to that as well. And there's a link to the Two Mad Monkeys website where you can sign up, join the forum, blah blah blah. So good night everyone, thank you for watching, I'll see you tomorrow, bye bye for now.